when the door opened, where I saw only walls. If you are reading this, you did not arrive by accident. There is a hidden mathematics to grace, a divine timing that moves quietly through the corridors of ordinary days, and when the soul is ready, the words appear. I know this because once, not long ago, I sat at a small table with unpaid bills stacked like accusations, my breath shallow, my prayers tired from repetition without expectation. I believed in God, but I did not yet believe in goodness as a living force that could answer me now. I believed in effort, in struggle, in waiting my turn. And so life gave me exactly what I believed: effort without ease, struggle without relief, and waiting without end. In those days, money felt like a stranger who passed my door but never knocked. I watched others receive opportunities as if they were natural events, like rain falling on fertile ground, while my own soil felt dry and resistant. I worked hard, I hoped quietly, and I spoke carefully because somewhere deep inside I believed that words were dangerous when they dared to expect too much. I did not know then that my caution was a form of unbelief, or that every sentence I spoke was planting tomorrow's harvest. There came a morning, unremarkable on the surface, when exhaustion finally made me honest. I was no longer asking politely. I was no longer pretending patience. I said aloud, "There must be a law to this. There must be a way life responds that I have not been taught." And in that moment, something ancient stirred, not dramatic, not loud, but steady, like a clock that had been waiting to be wound. That was when the three words first found me. They did not arrive as theory. They arrived as relief. They came as simple truth wrapped in power, as if they had been waiting patiently for me to stop arguing with limitation. Those words were provision, overflow, and trust. At first, they sounded almost too gentle to solve heavy problems. But spiritual laws are never violent. They are exact. They do not push. They align. Provision whispered to me that supply is not earned through suffering, but revealed through alignment. Overflow reminded me that life is not designed for barely enough, but for more than enough, pressed down and running over in forms both expected and miraculous. And trust, sweet, steady trust, asked me to loosen my grip on fear and let divine intelligence do what it has always done best. I began not with dramatic declarations, but with quiet repetition. I spoke these words when fear tried to speak first. I said them when my bank balance argued back. I said them when logic laughed. And something extraordinary happened. Reality softened. Opportunities began appearing with the casual generosity of a friend who had always meant to help. Money arrived in ways that felt personal, almost intimate, as if life itself had leaned in and said, "At last, you are listening." This is not a story about luck. It is not a promise of sudden chaos disguised as blessing. What unfolded felt orderly, lawful, and kind, like winning a small lottery every week, not through chance, but through consent with a higher order. Bills were paid before panic could bloom. Needs were met before desperation could speak. And beyond the numbers, something far greater shifted. My nervous system learned peace. My thoughts learned trust. My words learned authority. I am telling you this because the same law that found me is finding you now. Words are not decoration, they are direction. Every time you speak, you are instructing life how to treat you. When words are spoken with faith, they become bridges. When they are spoken with fear, they become walls. I had built walls for years without realizing it, calling them realism, calling them humility, calling them caution. But heaven does not respond to caution. It responds to clarity. Provision is clarity. Overflow is expectation. Trust is surrender without anxiety. Together, they form a trinity of alignment that changes not only what you receive, but who you are willing to be. As I spoke them, I felt my identity rearrange itself quietly. I was no longer a person hoping for abundance someday. I was a person aligned with supply now. I was no longer waiting for permission to live well. I was agreeing with life's original intent. Do not rush these words. Let them settle like seeds into receptive ground. Provision is not something coming toward you. It is something revealing itself as you agree to see it. Overflow is not excess. It is evidence that fear is no longer managing your expectations. Trust is not blindness. It is intelligence resting in a wisdom larger than personal effort. As you read on, you will feel moments of resistance. That is not failure. That is old language leaving the body. You may feel emotion rise unexpectedly. That is memory loosening its grip. You may feel sudden hope followed by doubt. That is the mind learning a new rhythm. Stay, continue. These words work because they are lawful, and law does not require belief, only alignment. I speak now what I wish someone had spoken to me when I was tired of surviving. I affirm it not as wishful thinking, but as spiritual fact, alive and active now. I am provision, and my needs are met before fear can name them. I am overflow, and life gives to me in measures that surprise and bless. I am trust, and I rest in the certainty that divine intelligence manages my supply. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust, provision, the invisible storehouse that knows your name. Provision is not a paycheck. It is not a number on a screen, nor a favor granted by circumstance. Provision is a spiritual state, an invisible storehouse that opens the moment you stop begging and start agreeing. Long before money appears in form, provision appears as certainty, and certainty is what the universe recognizes as authority. For years, I believed provision was something I had to convince life to give me. I spoke politely to lack, hoping it would soften. I negotiated with fear, asking it to wait. But provision does not respond to negotiation. It responds to identity. The moment I began to say, I am provision, something inside me stood up straight. I was no longer a petitioner. I was a participant in divine supply. Florence taught that God's riches are infinite and immediate, but human consciousness often places them in the future. We say, someday, and life hears, not now. We say, I hope, and life hears, I doubt. Provision lives in the present tense. It cannot move through delay language. It flows only where now is honored as holy. When I began affirming provision, the first change was not financial. It was internal. I stopped scanning my environment for threats. I stopped tightening my body when expenses approached. My breath deepened. And in that relaxed state, ideas came. Not frantic ideas, but clear ones. Guidance arrived without force. I understood then that provision often enters as insight before it enters as income. There was a week when no money had yet appeared, but every need was somehow met. Someone paid for a meal without discussion. A forgotten credit surfaced. A bill adjusted itself through an unexpected correction. This is how provision works. It is intelligent. It does not announce itself loudly. It arranges. It orchestrates. It knows which door to open without alarming the mind. Provision dissolves panic because it does not argue with numbers. Numbers are effects. Provision is cause. When you speak provision, you move attention away from the effect and back to the source. And the source is never depleted. The source does not check your past. It does not audit your mistakes. It responds only to your present alignment. I learned to say, even when logic protested, provision goes before me and makes the way clear. This statement did not deny reality, it reordered it. Each time I spoke it, I felt less alone. And loneliness is the true poverty. When you feel supported by life, money becomes cooperative instead of dramatic. Provision also corrected my relationship with effort. I stopped confusing exhaustion with virtue. I realized that frantic action often blocks supply because it declares mistrust. Provision allows action to be guided rather than forced. I still worked, but the work felt aligned, not desperate. Opportunities felt timed, not chased. This is the signature of true supply. It arrives without humiliation. You may notice resistance to this word. Old conditioning whispers that expecting provision is irresponsible. That voice is inherited fear, not wisdom. Divine law is not offended by expectation. It is offended only by denial. When you deny provision, you deny the intelligence that sustains stars without supervision. Let this word become intimate. Say it slowly. Let it settle in your chest. You are not calling something towards you. You are naming what already surrounds you. Provision is not outside your life. It is the life beneath your life, waiting to be acknowledged. I speak these affirmations now with calm authority, and I invite you to let them speak you. I am provision, and my supply is established before I ask. I am provision, and every need recognizes me as its answer. I am provision, and life supports me in visible and invisible ways. I am provision in my thoughts, provision in my speech, provision in my expectations. I walk into rooms where provision has already arrived. I rest in the certainty that what I require is already prepared. I am provision. Overflow, when enough learns to multiply. Overflow is not excess, it is expansion. It is the moment when life responds not only to your needs, but to your capacity to receive without fear. For a long time, I believed that having just enough was maturity. I wore limitation like wisdom and restraint like virtue. I thought wanting more meant I was ungrateful, but overflow corrected that misunderstanding gently and completely. Overflow taught me that gratitude does not shrink a desire, it sanctifies it. When you are grateful for enough, life offers more. When you fear more, life withholds not as punishment, but as protection. Overflow arrives only where the nervous system can understand abundance without panic. It is not about having more than others. It is about having more than fear. At first, the word overflow felt unfamiliar in my mouth. Saying it brought up questions. What if it disappears? What if it creates responsibility? What if I lose it? These questions were not intuition. They were old agreements with scarcity. Florence taught that fear of loss is proof we do not yet believe in the source. Overflow requires allegiance to source rather than attachment to form. I began softly. Overflow meets me today. I did not demand proof. I allowed the word to rearrange my expectations. Soon, small evidences appeared. Time expanded. Tasks completed themselves more easily. Money stayed longer. And when it came with room to breathe. This is the nature of overflow. It creates space. Overflow is a mindset, but more than that, it is a spiritual posture. It is the internal decision that life is generous by design. Once this decision is made, you stop bracing for loss. And when you stop bracing, you stop leaking energy. Energy conserved becomes magnetism. Magnetism attracts increase. There was a moment when I realized I was no longer counting nervously. I was planning calmly. I was no longer hoping something would last. I expected continuity. This expectation is powerful. Life matches it quickly. Overflow is not loud. It is consistent. It does not arrive as shock. It arrives as rhythm. Florence often spoke of the divine pattern of multiplication. She said what is given in faith returns multiplied because fear is the only thing that stops circulation. Overflow is circulation restored. Money flows in because money flows out with trust. Love flows in because love flows out without bargaining. Ideas flow in because ideas are shared freely. Overflow also healed my relationship with receiving. I no longer apologized for blessings. I no longer explained why I deserved them. I simply received. Receiving is a skill, and overflow trains it gently. Each time you accept good without defense, you signal readiness for more. Let overflow become your expectation, not your exception. Let it be normal. When good becomes normal, it multiplies. When miracles become casual, they increase. Overflow is life saying, you are safe with abundance. Affirm this now, not emotionally, but steadily. I am overflow, and my life expands without strain. I am overflow, and good comes to me in generous measure. I am overflow, and there is always more than enough. I am overflow in my finances, overflow in my time, overflow in my opportunities. What reaches me multiplies. What supports me continues. I live in the calm certainty of overflow. I am overflow. Trust, the sacred release that activates everything. Trust is not passivity. It is alignment without tension. It is the deep exhale of the soul that says, I no longer need to manage what is larger than me. Of the 3 words, trust was the most difficult and the most transformative. Provision showed me supply. Overflow showed me expansion. Trust taught me how to let both arrive without interference. I once believed trust was something you practiced after proof arrived. I thought it was the reward for safety. But trust is the doorway to safety, not the result of it. Florence taught that the universe is governed by an intelligence so precise that anxiety becomes unnecessary. When you trust this intelligence, you stop interrupting outcomes with fear-based adjustments. At first, trust felt like stepping backward. The mind wanted control. It wanted timelines, guarantees, signs, but trust does not negotiate. It does not ask for reassurance every hour. It simply rests, and in that rest, things move faster. What the anxious mind tries to push, trust allows to arrive. There were days when nothing changed outwardly, yet something inside me was deeply calm. That calm was not resignation. It was knowing, and knowing has weight. It changes how others respond to you. It changes how opportunities find you. People trust those who trust life because their energy is unfragmented. Trust healed my habit of repeating worry out loud. I realized that every complaint was a vote for delay. Every anxious sentence was a spell I did not mean to cast. Trust taught me silence where fear used to speak. Silence paired with certainty is powerful. It allows unseen forces to work without contradiction. One afternoon, faced with an expense I could not logically cover, I said simply, "I trust the timing of supply." I did not explain. I did not dramatize. And the solution appeared with almost comic ease. Not because I forced belief, but because I stopped interfering. Trust does not deny emotion. It acknowledges fear and then releases it. It says, "You may be here, but you may not drive." This is spiritual maturity. It is not pretending. It is choosing authority over reaction. When trust became natural, life felt cooperative instead of adversarial. Delays no longer felt personal. Redirections no longer felt like punishment. Everything became information rather than judgment. And in that neutrality, blessings moved quickly. Let trust become your resting place. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not unworthy. You are guided. Trust is the first love of the soul that remembers it belongs to a universe that knows its name. When you trust, you are not surrendering your life to chance. You are surrendering it to a higher intelligence that has been carrying you long before you learned to carry yourself. The moment you understand this, you begin to feel your life from a new perspective. You begin to see that every delay was a protection, every closed door was a redirection, and every hardship was a lesson that prepared you for the ease you now claim. I remember one night when I could not sleep, and my mind kept circling the same old fear. What if I never make it? I lay there listening to the silence, and then I spoke the word trust as if it were a prayer and not a concept. I said, "I am trust." I repeated it slowly, letting it fill the room like a gentle candle flame. As I spoke, my breath softened. The mind, which had been a harsh judge, became quiet. And in that quiet, I felt a peace that did not depend on circumstance. That peace was not a feeling of being safe because things were good. It was a feeling of being safe because God is good. Trust is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of a higher belief that overrides fear. It is the recognition that you are not abandoned. It is the understanding that the universe is not only listening, but responding, even when you cannot yet see the response. This is the mystery of divine timing. It is always right. It is always perfect. It is always on time. I learned to trust not only in the presence of blessings, but in the presence of waiting. Waiting is not a punishment. It is a preparation. Trust teaches you to be still in the space between desire and manifestation. It teaches you to be calm when the answer has not yet arrived. It teaches you to love the process rather than fear it. The truth is, trust is the backbone of all miracles. Without trust, miracles cannot enter, because miracles are not meant to be forced. They are meant to be welcomed. They require a space of openness, and openness is born in trust. When you trust, you become a vessel, not a container. A container is rigid, filled with worry and limitation. A vessel is flexible, ready to receive the divine flow. Trust is also the bridge between words and reality. Words without trust are like seeds planted in dry soil. They will not grow, but words spoken with trust are planted in fertile ground. They take root. They grow, they bloom. The universe recognizes trust as a declaration of alignment. It hears it as a command. So speak trust as your daily decree. I am trust, and I release the need to control outcomes. I am trust, and divine intelligence manages my supply. I am trust, and everything unfolds in perfect order. I am trust in waiting, trust in action, trust in receiving. I allow life to surprise me with kindness. I rest in the intelligence that never fails. I am trust. And as you repeat this word, feel the walls of anxiety loosen. Feel the chains of worry fall away. Feel your spirit expand into the space where miracles live. Trust is not a wish. It is a law. It is a spiritual force that activates provision and overflow in your life. When you trust, you are not asking life to prove itself. You are agreeing with what you already know deep down, that you are beloved, supported, and guided. Trust is the spiritual posture of the one who has finally stopped arguing with the divine. And so I say to you now, with calm authority and unwavering faith, trust is your birthright. Trust is your strength. Trust is your victory. I am trust. I am trust. I am trust. When complaints become spells and fear becomes a habit. If you have ever wondered why your life repeats the same difficulties, listen closely. You are not being punished by fate. You are being educated by your own words. The universe is not cruel. It is faithful. It returns to you exactly what you have been speaking into your atmosphere. If your speech has been filled with complaint, worry, and fear, then your life has been obedient to your language. And this is why it is so important to break old patterns, not through force, but through gentle, consistent re-education of your tongue. For years, I thought I was being realistic when I spoke my worries out loud. I believed that naming the problem was the first step to solving it. But Florence taught a different truth. Naming the problem repeatedly is not solving it. It is feeding it. Each time you say, "I'm broke," or "nothing ever works out," you are writing a script that the subconscious will perform. Complaints are spells, and your mouth is the wand. You may think, "But I am just being honest." Yet honesty without transformation is still a form of worship. When you speak lack, you are worshiping lack. When you speak fear, you are worshiping fear. When you speak limitation, you are worshiping limitation. The universe does not judge your words, it obeys them. Old patterns are not broken by force, they are broken by awareness. I began to notice how often my words were disguised as truth. I would say, "This is just how it is," when I was really saying, "This is how I have agreed to live." I would say, "I'm not good with money," when I was really saying, "I do not deserve abundance." I would say, "I can't," when I was really saying, "I refuse to allow myself to be supported." And when I noticed these patterns, I did not beat myself up. I simply corrected them. Correction is not shame. It is love. It is the act of telling your mind, "I will no longer let you govern my life with old fear." One of the most powerful moments in my transformation came when I realized that fear had been my habit. Fear was not only a feeling, it was a language. I had been speaking fear so long that my body recognized it as familiar. It felt like home. And so, when I began to speak provision, overflow, and trust, my body resisted. It felt strange to speak abundance because my nervous system expected scarcity. This is why breaking old patterns requires repetition. The subconscious is not persuaded by a single declaration. It is trained by consistent practice. You cannot simply decide to be wealthy one day and then continue speaking poverty the next. Your words must become new habits. It is also important to understand that breaking old patterns is not about ignoring reality. It is about choosing a higher reality. You do not deny the bill. You deny the fear. You do not deny the need. You deny the panic. You do not deny the lack. You deny the belief that lack is permanent. Old patterns are reinforced by the company you keep. If you spend your time with people who constantly complain, you will find yourself agreeing with them. Not because you are weak, but because your subconscious is built to match the vibration around you. This is why Florence spoke of guarding your mind as you would guard your body. Your thoughts are the environment in which your future grows. When you break old patterns, you will feel an inner resistance. You may feel guilt when you speak a new word. You may feel silly when you affirm. You may feel like you are lying to yourself. But remember, you are not lying. You are reprogramming. You are shifting from a life of reaction to a life of intention. The old language will try to sneak back in. It will sound like your old friends, your old beliefs, your old fears. But you must be gentle and firm. You must correct the language as soon as you hear it. You must say, "No, I will not speak lack today." And then you must replace it with the truth. Here is what I learned. Every complaint is a request to the universe. The universe is not wise enough to understand that you are complaining. It only hears the vibration. And the vibration of complaint is lack. So when you complain, you are asking for more lack. But when you speak the 3 master words, you are making a different request. You are asking for provision. You are asking for overflow. You are asking for trust. And the universe responds. It is faithful to the vibration of your words. It is not easy to break old patterns. It is not instant, but it is possible. And once you begin, you will notice that your life begins to change, not because you are trying harder, but because you are speaking differently. You will begin to attract different people, different opportunities, different circumstances. You will begin to live in a new atmosphere. The day I truly broke the old pattern was the day I stopped speaking fear as if it were inevitable. I stopped saying, "I'm worried," and started saying, "I am trusting." I stopped saying, "I don't know how," and started saying, "Provision knows how." I stopped saying, "I can't," and started saying, "I am open to overflow." And this is the new pattern. I am provision, and I speak with certainty. I am overflow, and I expect generous supply. I am trust, and I release fear from my mouth. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. My words are now prayers. My words are now laws. My words are now blessings. The old patterns are breaking. The new patterns are rising. And I am becoming the person who lives in abundance, not by chance, but by divine law. The ritual of the 3 words that rewrites your life. When I first learned the power of provision, overflow, and trust, I wanted it to be immediate. I wanted a miracle to announce itself with fanfare, like a heavenly trumpet blowing in my living room. But the truth is, the universe does not operate through drama. It operates through ritual. It moves through repetition. It changes your life not in a moment, but in a habit. If you are reading this, you are not only seeking abundance, you are seeking transformation. And transformation is not a one-time event. It is a daily alignment. The 3 words are not a slogan. They are a way of living. They become your morning, your day, and your night. They become the rhythm of your heart. The first practice is mourning. Mourning is sacred because it is the first moment your mind is unguarded. It is the moment before the world begins to speak at you. This is why Florence always spoke of beginning the day with words of power. Your first words set the tone for the entire day. If your first words are fear, the day will echo fear. If your first words are provision, overflow, and trust, the day will echo abundance. When you wake, do not reach for your phone. Do not allow the world to speak before you have spoken to your soul. Sit quietly, breathe, and then speak your 3 words. Say them slowly, feel them in your body. Let them settle in your chest like a warm fire. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. Then repeat them again with more conviction, as if you are greeting a beloved friend. Allow your mind to accept them as truth. You are not asking. You are declaring. You are not wishing. You are aligning. Next, write them down. There is power in ink. Writing is a physical act of commitment. When you write the words, you are telling your subconscious, "This is now my identity." Keep a small notebook. Write the 3 words at the top of the page. Then write, "Provision is my supply. Overflow is my expectation. Trust is my rest." This simple act will begin to rewire your mind. It will begin to change the way you see your day. It will begin to change the way the world responds to you. During the day, you will face moments where fear wants to speak. It will come disguised as logic. It will say, "You should worry." It will say, "You need to check your account." It will say, "You need to ask for proof." But you must remember, fear is only a habit. It is not truth, and you do not have to obey it. When fear arises, pause, take a breath. Then say the words out loud, even if no one else is listening. Say them like you mean them. Say them like you are training your tongue to be faithful. Say, "I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust." Then add a short sentence to direct your day. Provision is arranging my steps. Overflow is opening doors for me. Trust is keeping me calm. You will notice that the more you speak these words, the more your day begins to flow. The world will respond to your new vibration. Opportunities will appear. Conversations will shift. Your energy will change. People will treat you differently, not because you are demanding change, but because you are embodying it. Nighttime practice is perhaps the most powerful because it speaks directly to the subconscious. The subconscious does not differentiate between day and night. It accepts what you feed it. When you go to sleep with fear, you sleep with fear. When you go to sleep with trust, you sleep with trust. When you go to sleep with provision and overflow, your dreams become aligned with supply. Before you sleep, lie down and review your day. Do not judge it. Simply observe. Then speak your words softly as if you are tucking your soul into bed. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. Then say a long affirmation paragraph slowly and gently. I am provision. I am provided for. My needs are met before I even ask. I am overflow. Life gives to me in ways that surprise and bless me. I am trust. I rest in the certainty that divine intelligence manages my life. I release fear. I release doubt. I release the need to control. I am aligned with abundance. Repeat it until your mind begins to soften. Let the words become the last sound you hear before sleep. This is how you program your subconscious. This is how you rewrite the story of your life. There is also a powerful practice of writing in a notebook called the 3-word ritual. Every night, write a short entry with the following structure. Provision. Write one thing you received today that showed supply. Overflow. Write one moment where you felt abundance. Trust. Write one moment where you chose faith over fear. This practice trains your mind to notice evidence. The universe loves to confirm what you believe. When you begin noticing evidence, you begin believing more. And when you believe more, the evidence multiplies. Remember, the 3 words are not a one-time declaration. They are a lifestyle. They are a daily ritual. They are the new language of your soul. The more you speak them, the more they become you. So begin now, this very day. Begin with your first breath. Begin with your first word. Begin with your first affirmation. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. And the world will begin to rearrange itself in response to the new vibration of your life. When the brain finally catches up to the soul. Many people want to dismiss the power of words as mere positive thinking. They say, it's all mental. But the truth is, the mind is not separate from the body, and the body is not separate from the spirit. Words are not only spiritual tools, they are biological triggers. Science has finally begun to catch up to what mystics have known for centuries. The language you speak changes your brain, your nervous system, and your entire life. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience. Your brain is not fixed. It is not a static machine. It is a living organ that adapts to what you repeatedly do, think, and say. Every time you speak provision, overflow, and trust, you are training your brain to create new pathways. You are literally creating a new identity inside your nervous system. When you repeat old fear-based language, the brain strengthens the pathways of stress. It releases stress hormones, tightens muscles, and activates the fight or flight response. Over time, the body learns to stay in survival mode. This is why fear feels so natural to many people. It is not because fear is true. It is because fear has been practiced. It has become a habit. But when you speak the 3 words consistently, you begin to activate a different system. You activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the system of rest, repair, and calm. You allow your body to stop defending itself against life. You allow your mind to stop scanning for threats. And when the body is calm, the mind becomes clear. When the mind is clear, you can hear guidance. When you hear guidance, you make aligned decisions, and aligned decisions create aligned outcomes. Science calls this self-fulfilling prophecy. The spiritual world calls it law. They are describing the same truth with different language. The universe is not offended by your beliefs. It is shaped by them. Your beliefs create your experience, and your experience reinforces your beliefs. Your subconscious is like a loyal servant. It does not question your commands. It does not argue with your logic. It simply obeys. When you speak fear, it obeys fear. When you speak provision, it obeys provision. When you speak overflow, it obeys overflow. When you speak trust, it obeys trust. The subconscious does not care if you are right. It only cares if you are consistent. That is why the daily practice is so important. It is not the intensity that matters. It is the repetition. The brain needs repetition to form new pathways. The spirit needs repetition to form new habits. The soul needs repetition to remember its true identity. And there is another scientific truth that aligns perfectly with spiritual law: the power of expectation. Studies have shown that expectation changes outcomes. People who expect positive results often perform better. They recover faster. They attract better opportunities. This is not magic. It is biology. Your brain is constantly predicting what will happen next based on what it has been trained to expect. When you expect provision, your brain looks for signs of supply. When you expect overflow, your brain looks for signs of abundance. When you expect trust, your brain looks for signs of safety. Your brain is not trying to deceive you. It is simply doing what it was designed to do: create a reality based on your internal programming. This is why the 3 words are not just spiritual. They are biological, they are practical, they are law. When you speak them, you are not just praying, you are programming. You are training your brain to see the world differently. And when the world looks different, you live differently. There is also the science of vibration. Quantum physics has shown that everything is energy, everything is vibration. Your thoughts and words are vibrations. When you speak, you send out a vibration into the universe. The universe responds to vibration. It matches it. It returns to you the same frequency you emit. This is why complaining brings more complaints. This is why fear brings more fear. This is why scarcity brings more scarcity. And this is why provision brings provision, overflow brings overflow, and trust brings trust. The universe is not judging you. It is responding to the frequency you are broadcasting. The spiritual and scientific worlds meet in this truth. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a creator of circumstance. You are a co-creator with the divine. Your words are the tools. Your beliefs are the blueprint. Your life is the manifestation. So speak with intention. Speak with calm authority. Speak with faith. I am provision, and my brain is rewired for supply. I am overflow, and my nervous system is open to abundance. I am trust, and my spirit rests in divine order. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. My words are now laws. My thoughts are now aligned. My life is now transformed. When provision, overflow, and trust become the rhythm of your whole life. Abundance is not only money. That is a shallow understanding of a deep truth. Abundance is wholeness. Abundance is the feeling of being fully supported in every area of your life: health, relationships, purpose, creativity, peace, and joy. When provision, overflow, and trust become your language, they do not only transform your finances, they transform your entire existence. They bring you into alignment with the original design of your soul. In the old days, I thought abundance meant having more than others. I thought abundance meant wealth, luxury, and status. But the universe does not measure abundance by comparison. The universe measures abundance by capacity. How much can you receive without fear? How much can you give without scarcity? How much can you love without defense? That is the true measure of abundance. Provision is the foundation. It begins with the understanding that you are cared for. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a soul to be supported. Provision is not only about money, it is about health, energy, strength, and vitality. It is about waking up and feeling supported by life. Provision is the sense that the universe is on your side, even when you cannot see the outcome. Overflow is the expansion. It is the feeling that life is not just meeting your needs, but exceeding them. Overflow is when you have more time than you expected. Overflow is when your relationships deepen. Overflow is when your creativity flows effortlessly. Overflow is when your heart feels full. Overflow is when you realize that life is not a struggle, but a dance. Trust is the peace. Trust is the calm that carries you through storms. Trust is the knowing that you are not alone. Trust is the surrender that does not weaken you but strengthens you. Trust is the quiet confidence that your life is unfolding in perfect order, even when it looks chaotic. When these 3 words become your daily reality, your life becomes a living testimony of divine abundance. You begin to notice that the universe is always giving you something. You begin to notice that every area of your life is being supported. You begin to see that abundance is not a destination. It is a way of living. I remember when I first began to speak these words, I did not expect my health to change. I did not expect my relationships to improve. I did not expect my creativity to awaken. But they did, because when you align with the law of words, you align with the law of life, and life is abundant by nature. There was a season when I was physically exhausted. I had been pushing myself for too long. I was spiritually drained. My body felt like a machine running on empty. I began to speak provision not only for money, but for my health. I said, provision is my vitality. Provision is my strength. Provision is my healing. And slowly I began to feel better. Not instantly, but gradually. My energy returned. My body began to repair itself. I began to feel like myself again. That is provision in health. That is the universe supporting your body because you have decided to speak support into existence. Then overflow began to show up in my relationships. I began to feel more loved, more appreciated, more seen. People began to respond to me with kindness and generosity. Not because I was doing anything differently, but because I was speaking differently. When you speak overflow, you begin to radiate abundance. People feel it. They respond to it. They are drawn to it. And trust became the anchor. Trust kept me steady when storms came. Trust kept me calm when uncertainty arrived. Trust kept me from reacting in fear. Trust allowed me to rest in the knowledge that life was working for me, not against me. Abundance is not a luxury. It is your birthright. You were not created to survive. You were created to thrive. You were created to live in the overflow of divine supply. You were created to be supported in every area of your life. So speak these words not only for money, but for your whole life. I am provision in my health. I am overflow in my relationships. I am trust in my purpose. I am provision in my creativity. I am overflow in my peace. I am trust in my journey. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. And my life is a testimony of abundance in every area. The moment you stop chasing and start becoming, there comes a point in the life of every seeker when the struggle to get becomes replaced by the calm certainty of I am. It is not an event. It is a shift. It is the moment when the mind stops bargaining and the soul begins to recognize its own authority. This is the moment you move from wishing to being. This is the moment you stop chasing and start becoming. When I first began speaking provision, overflow, and trust, I was still living in the old identity. I was still the person who believed that abundance was something to be earned through effort, struggle, and suffering. I still believed that I needed to prove myself. I still believed that I needed to push life into giving me what I wanted. But the more I spoke the words, the more my identity changed. I began to feel a new sense of self. I began to stand taller. I began to speak with calm authority. I began to make decisions from a place of peace rather than panic. And when I did, my life began to reflect this new identity. You see, identity is not something you find. It is something you declare. It is something you speak into existence. You are not the person your past has made you. You are the person your words are creating. If your words are still speaking lack, then your identity is still rooted in lack. If your words are speaking provision, overflow, and trust, then your identity is rooted in abundance. Living the new identity is not about perfection. It is about consistency. It is about choosing the new language even when the old language feels familiar. It is about choosing the new identity even when the old identity feels safe. Because the old identity is familiar, it is comfortable, it is known. And the mind loves known things even if they are painful. But you are not here to live in pain. You are here to live in abundance. You are here to live in the flow of divine supply. You are here to live in the peace of trust. You are here to live in the overflow of life. Living the new identity also changes how you handle resistance. Resistance will come. It always does. But when you live in your new identity, resistance no longer feels like defeat. It feels like a test. It feels like an opportunity to practice the new language. When fear tries to speak, you simply correct it. You do not argue. You do not fight. You simply speak the truth. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. And then you continue. You continue your day. You continue your life. You continue your path. You do not stop. You do not shrink. You do not retreat. You continue. Living the new identity also changes your actions. You no longer act from desperation. You act from alignment. You no longer make decisions from fear. You make decisions from clarity. You no longer accept less than you deserve. You no longer settle. You no longer compromise your peace for temporary relief. When you live in the new identity, your boundaries become sacred. You protect your peace. You protect your energy. You protect your language. You no longer allow others to speak fear into your life. You no longer allow yourself to speak fear into your life. You guard your mind like a sanctuary, and you begin to notice a new kind of freedom. You begin to feel lighter. You begin to feel more joyful. You begin to feel more creative. You begin to feel more alive. This is the fruit of living the new identity. This is what happens when you align with the law of words. You begin to experience the world differently. You begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You begin to feel support where you once felt abandonment. You begin to feel guidance where you once felt confusion. You begin to feel love where you once felt fear. And you begin to live with a new kind of confidence, not arrogance, but calm authority, not pride, but certainty, not aggression, but peace. This is the identity of a person who has chosen to live in provision, overflow, and trust. So speak your new identity every day. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. I am not waiting for abundance. I am not chasing it. I am it. I am not hoping for supply. I am not begging for it. I am the vessel of it. I am not fearing the future. I am trusting it. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. And I live in the new identity every moment of my life. You were never powerless. You were just speaking the wrong words. And now, beloved soul, we come to the end of this journey, not as an ending, but as a beginning. You have walked through the door of truth, and you have stood on the threshold of a new life. You have learned the law of words. You have learned that your tongue is not a tool of complaint, but a wand of creation. You have learned that provision is not something you chase, but something you become. You have learned that overflow is not a dream, but a natural rhythm of life. You have learned that trust is not a risk, but a sacred rest. If you are reading this, you have already begun. You have already spoken the first word. You have already chosen the new language. You have already agreed with the divine law that governs the universe. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not too far gone. You are exactly where you are meant to be at the moment of transformation. You were never powerless. You were simply unaware. You were never abandoned. You were simply speaking the wrong words. The universe has always been faithful. The universe has always been generous. The universe has always been waiting for you to speak the language of your own blessing. Now you will speak it. You will speak provision. You will speak overflow. You will speak trust. You will speak them with calm authority. You will speak them with faith. You will speak them with the certainty that comes from knowing the law. You will not speak fear. You will not speak lack. You will not speak limitation. You will not speak doubt. You will not speak apology. You will not speak resignation. You will not speak maybe. You will speak what is true, because truth is not what the world tells you. Truth is what the universe reveals to you when you align with it. Truth is the voice of your soul. Truth is the law of life. Provision is the truth that supply is established. Overflow is the truth that life is generous. Trust is the truth that you are guided. You will speak these words until they become your identity, until they become your nature, until they become the air you breathe, until your mind no longer doubts and your heart no longer fears, until your life becomes the evidence of your alignment. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a co-creator of reality. You are a child of the divine, and the divine is not stingy. The divine is abundant. The divine is generous. The divine is loving. The divine is faithful. And the divine is speaking through you now, through your words, through your thoughts, through your choices. So speak with courage, speak with power, speak with peace, speak with love, and let the world rearrange itself in response to your new language. Now declare it with me, not as a wish, but as a law, not as a hope, but as a certainty, not as a prayer, but as an identity. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. I am provision, and my needs are met before I even ask. I am overflow, and life gives to me in generous measure. I am trust, and I rest in the certainty of divine order. I am provision. I am overflow. I am trust. I am abundance. I am wholeness. I am divine supply. And so it is.